What we're looking at in this video is something called validation. And what validation is, very simply, is it's checking to see that data entered is plausible or reasonable. So if, for example, I'm entering in someone's age into the database, I could enter in an age of 90. Now, that's a plausible and reasonable age for me to enter in. So I can say that the data is valid. It doesn't mean it's correct. If I was entering in a child's date of birth who was 9 years old, or his age who was 9, then it would be the wrong data. But it's valid, it's plausible as an entry. If I try and enter 900 though, then a validation check should see that I can't enter this number because we can't have a human age of 900 years. So validation is checking to see that the data entered is reasonable, it's sensible, or it's plausible. Now we're going to have a look at a number of different validations which are possible, and here they are. Type check, range check, length check, presence check, lookup check, and format check. And for each one of them, we're going to have a look at what that means, and then we're going to have a look at it in action just so you've got more of an idea of exactly what it's doing. So the first one, first of all, is the type check. And so here are the data types which we've got down here for each of the fields, and just to see it working, so for instance we've said that the year must be a number. We could have had that as text, but we've chosen correctly to say that it's a number. So if we go and we look at the table view, then if I try and enter a new record in here, and I try and enter it with maybe the year ABC, then the computer says you're not allowed to do that because it should be a number and you've entered some text. So again, I'm getting more valid data by forcing it to be a number, and if I put in a more reasonable number like that, then it will let me move on absolutely fine. So there, first of all, we have done a type check. And so the next one is a range check. Now what we can see here, while I've been able to put 2012 in and that's absolutely fine and I can't put ABC in now, it is possible for me to say that this film was made in 2200 and it's perfectly okay with me entering in that data. But it seems a bit ridiculous. It doesn't seem like it's valid data. How could a film be made in the future? So what we can do is something called a range check, where we're checking the range of numbers that have been entered to see if they conform to something which is valid. And so let's have a look at this. We go into the year, and this time inside the validation rule, I'm saying that to be valid, it must be between the values of maybe 1900. I'm sure the earliest film was earlier, but we'll go with that, 1900, and I want to say to it the current year. I could put in myself 2012, but next year now my rule won't work. So there is a function called now, which will get today's date, and there's another one called year, which will take the date and just get the year out of it. So I'm saying I want a year between, or a number between 1900 and the year of the current date. And so let's see whether that works. If we take a little look, then we now look in here, and so if I enter, let's try and enter the year 2000 first of all, that works absolutely fine. If I try and say 1899, it's not happy with me, and it's saying here in the error message, it's saying that you're not allowed to within this rule that's been set up. So if I try and do 1900, it works fine. If I try and do 2012 this year, it's fine. If I try and do 2013, it's again not happy because it's outside the range check. And so there we've improved again our program. And so that's the range check. We're checking a range of numbers to see if they are within that range. Next one, very simple one, is a length check. So what we have with a length check is we don't necessarily want things to go on forever. We don't want to type in as much as possible. And if the closer we can get it to the actual length that we want, the less space we're wasting inside our database. So at the moment, the title length, if we take a look at it, so the title here, the field size, the length of that field is 255, which seems a bit long to me. Now we want to give enough space for a reasonably long title, but 100 would seem fair enough. So now we've changed it to 100, and if we go back and we test that, then we should be able to see if we entered in over 100 characters that it won't let us enter it in. And here I've just skipped the little bit where I was entering in 100 digits, and this could obviously be letters, not numbers. And so here, if I now try and enter another digit, it doesn't let me go any further. So even though I'm tapping on there, it goes no further. But if I go on, it will go to that point. So it's checking the length and seeing as long as it's under the 100 which I gave it, it won't let me enter in any more letters. Let's just clear that. Okay, if I put in a normal, reasonable name, then it should be quite happy with me. So that check there was the length check to see that the length has been entered in correctly. The next one is very simple. It sounds a bit harder, presence check. However, it's really, really easy. It's whether something has been entered or not, whether it exists or not. So in this case here, at the moment, I can get away with having no title and continuing on. But let's say I want to force the person entering to put a title in. So what I say is required here is yes. So this must be present in order to enter a record. So now I've deleted that old record that was here, and so I'm going to start a brand new record. And let's say that I've got the year 2012 in there, but I haven't put a title in. Then it's going to say to me here, you must enter the value into the title field. If I put in some value, then it's quite happy for me to finish because I've now got that value in there. And so that there is a presence check to see that something has been entered in. It's present inside my table. The next one is very useful, which is a lookup check, and that's checking that the data I enter is within a list of possible data items. So here we are back inside our table view, and if I try and enter a certificate now, I get a nice drop-down list and I can enter from here. And so this check here is seeing that I have entered something which is in a list. And so this one here is the lookup check. So in this table here, let's say that we've got the actor and we've got the date of birth, and let's say that we also want to add a new field to it which will store their postcode. So we're going to store that as text, but it's not just going to be simple text. So in order to do the format check, we're going to use a thing called an input mask. And we're going to say that we want it to look like a postcode. And so now, when we go into the table and try and enter a new record, if I try and put in just ordinary text, it won't let me move any further. However, if I try and put in a valid looking postcode, then it's quite happy to let me enter that data. So what we have there is that the data is in the correct format, so it's letting me enter that data in the correct format, and that is a format check. So as you can see, there are a number of ways in which we can validate data.